We have one shot at a great first impression, and your onboarding process is it for your new clients. Today, we're going to be talking about how to really wow your clients with your onboarding process. As coaches, we sometimes struggle with this because it's like, well, I just have one or two coming in at a time, especially newbies in the coaching world. Maybe you don't have a lot of clients that you're bringing on all at once. So it can sometimes be a little bit challenging to figure out, how do I really put the time and effort into creating this amazing onboarding program? Or what does it even look like that you're like, I'll do that down the line. Well, I'm telling you, that first impression is going to get you referrals. It's going to get you repeat clients. It's going to really make a significant difference in the interactions that you have with your clients. So don't delay this. And it's not as hard as you might think. There's some different steps and some different things to be aware of. And I'm here to walk you through all of those today. So let's talk about, what is onboarding? Well, onboarding is this process where we are setting up the intentions that we have with our clients. We're establishing the boundaries. We are letting them know what the expectations are. And also, of course, making sure that they're well informed on what are the next steps. And the better that you have this already outlined and designed, and the better that you communicate this information to your new client, the more wow you're going to give them. Now, let me talk about this. A lot of people will talk about new client gifts or, kind of things like that. Right now, you don't have to worry about that. If you are a new coach, don't worry about new client gifts. You're not there yet. It's not something that's going to make a significant difference. It's a nice to have, not a need to have. But what you do need to have, what the need to have is, are systems and strategies in place that are going to make sure that there's some consistency as you deliver the information to your client. So let's talk about what this looks like. This looks like making sure that your branding is in place. If you're sending an email message from one email address and a different message from a different email address, and it has a different signature line or a different kind of logo or fonts or colors, and everything's kind of all over the board, then that's very inconsistent, and it feels like a disconnect with the client. Another thing might be if their client is having to chase you, like, how do I schedule with you? How do I do this? How do I do that? They are itching to get started with you. And the first thing you need to do is tell them how to do that. So make sure that you have all of these things outlined and in place before they agreed and before they've even said, yes, I'm in. So it's all about creating this and designing it ahead of time. And then making sure that there's consistency throughout. Use the same logo, use the same signature line, use consistent emails. Now, that doesn't mean that your team can't send an email versus you sending an email. That means don't send one email from Gmail and one from Hotmail and one from AOL and, maybe there's one from your actual domain name. That means be consistent and send them all from the same email address or from the same domain address. So it could be like, I've got Nicole at Virtual A Team, and I also have team at Virtual A Team. So my team can send out some messages, but I can also send them out. And as long as it's team at or Nicole at, and the last part is all consistent, that's what we're shooting for. So what are some steps? What are some things that are involved in this new client onboarding process? It's not as simple as just saying, hey, thanks, great, I got your payment. There should be more to it. There's a little bit of a process, and I've kind of outlined this. I've got a great cheat sheet. You can check for that in the comments. I've got this great cheat sheet that's going to tell you all about it, and make sure that you've got these all nailed down. But let's talk about each one of these individually. The first one's the getting started email. This is the one that's going to be your, hey, welcome aboard. I'm so excited to have you. And here's the kind of a bullet list of what you can expect next. And this is the summary. It's the, the exciting, it's the, all right, we're getting started now. But there's not going to be a lot of specific information, because let me tell you, if you send an email that's a mile long, they're not going to read it. They're going to miss most of the major points. So keep each of these individuals a little bit succinct and to the point. So this getting started one is just going to outline the next steps for them very, very briefly and tell them what to expect. Payment options. You want to offer credit cards. I know this is kind of a sore subject because it feels like you're giving away money to a credit card company. And let me tell you a story about this. This is another story time. When I first started working, I've had credit card processing in my business for a number of years, but when I started first doing virtual services for clients, I really tried to avoid using credit cards. I avoid having them pay me by credit cards because it felt like a big chunk of money. And what I realized was, maybe that's holding them back from working with me more. Maybe if they had the option to pay by credit card, they might be willing to hire me for more hours. So I made the leap. I adjusted my rates. Here's the key. I adjusted my rates to compensate for those credit card fees. And then it felt good to be able to say, yes, you can pay by credit card. I can accept your credit card. I don't mind. It takes your business up a whole huge level when you accept credit card payments. This can be as simple as Stripe or PayPal or something like that. You don't have to have one of these big fancy kind of payment systems. You can actually just set up a PayPal account and accept credit cards that way. But giving your clients the opportunity to pay via credit card will definitely elevate you and your level of professionalism for that client. Let me say that again, that level of professionalism. Tongue-tied here. So keep that in mind. Now, certainly you can also accept checks or, other avenues too, but and truth be told, the more options that you give a client, the easier it is for them, but you can keep it simple and just keep it to one or two different things. So payment options are critically important, and make sure that you know how that's going to work, and you can easily speak to the client about that as soon as that comes up. The next piece of this is the contract or your agreement. This can, if you don't have some sort of a contract in place, it's really, 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 can I say that again? Really important that you have a contract in place. This can be a very basic, simple one. I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV, but I do recommend that you talk to somebody or at least get a simple form, something together that outlines the basics of when can they ask for their money back? What can they expect from you? What are they responsible for doing? Outline all of these details and it will save you a whole lot of headache. Let me tell you, I've had some clients, story moment. I have had some clients who have worked with their clients and had some nightmare situations come up where the team had to go through tons and tons of email messages trying to track who said what, who did what, all of those details to try and then present to a lawyer so that she could go back to her client and say, you are not owed any money. You are not owed a refund. And here's why you're not owed a refund. So it's really important to track these things and have some sort of a basis in place. Don't let yourself fall into that trap. Start early. You can get some really inexpensive forms online. Start with that as a basis and then have a lawyer review them. Next, we're going to talk about intake forms. Okay, intake forms are really also very important. You probably had, or maybe you had, if you've already kind of set up for that lead generation process, you might have had a little bit of an intake form before you even got on the call with somebody for a prospect. But an intake form for a new client is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be more in depth. You're going to dig deeper. Whatever topics you are working with them on, you're going to want to know more information. You can set these forms up in something like Jotform or, if you have WordPress, you can use like Ninja Forms or something along those lines. You can even do a Google form, although pro tip, don't use Google Forms unless you really, 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 really want to, because Google Forms require somebody to have a Gmail address. And if they don't have a Gmail address, or if they don't want to share their Gmail address, it can be an inhibitor. So something like Jot Forms or Ninja Forms doesn't require that and makes it a little bit more streamlined. Now, what I love about Ninja Forms and Jot Form and all of those other things is you can actually integrate those into your WordPress site. So if you have a site, or some of the other ones as well, but you can embed the code so that you're directing them to your website instead of to a Jot Form page, or a Google Form page or something else like that. I like to keep everything, I'm kind of stingy that way. I like to keep everything in-house as much as possible. I want them going to my website. I want them branded to see my domain name, not somebody else's all the time. It takes that professionalism up again, and also gives me more traffic on my website, which does not hurt. Okay, so get those intake forms set up in advance. This, honestly, it can be super simple, and just have an email with a list of questions. If you're not ready to take that step into creating some sort of a form, just have an email template that's set up with a list of questions, boom, 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 so that you can then get the answers to those questions. Email templates. Let's talk about those next, because this will save your butt. Create a bunch of templates. You can create these in Google Docs. You can create them in something like Phrase Express, which is a text expander. If you use Gmail, you can actually use template emails. They have this setting feature that you can set up and do that with template emails. Whatever you do, if you have a template email for your getting started, if you have a template email for your intake form, if you have a template email to send out your contract and the next steps and all of these different things, it's going to save you from having to retype this over and over and over again. Save yourself all that time and headache, and just set these up in advance. Have them somewhere where you can just copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, and then change what it is that you need to for that particular client. That's one of my good pro tips for you. The next email that you're going to send out is what's next. After they've done the contract, after they've submitted the payment, after they've filled out their intake form, what's next? Do they need to schedule an appointment with you at that point in time? This is when you send out that email saying, here's a link to my Calendly or my Acuity or my TimeTrade or Visita, whatever system you have in place. Send out that opportunity for them to schedule their next meeting. Okay, now here's my next insider pro tip for you. Encourage them, if you have a package where you're meeting clients on a regular basis, maybe once a week, once a month, whatever the consistency, invite them to schedule as many meetings in advance as possible. Now, I get it. Some people are going to have schedules that are a little bit wonky, and that's not always a possibility, but every single opportunity you can, encourage them to schedule all of their sessions at once. That way it's on the calendar, and you're not forgetting to do this, or you're not forgetting to get them on the calendar again, and then 6 months go by and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I'm not working with them. That doesn't make sense. Why haven't they scheduled with me? Because you didn't take the time to follow up and make sure they booked their next session. It saves everybody a whole lot of headache in advance. So make sure your system is in place to encourage them to schedule all of their meetings at the same time. And then our final email is going to be, it's a tips email. It's going to be that nurture email that says, here's some things that you can know on how to get the best out of your experience working with me. And it might be a little bit of, make sure, like maybe you're a meal, you're a life coach that works on meal planning and nutrition and that kind of thing. So your next steps email might be something about, make sure that we know what your favorite foods are. If you have dietary changes, make sure that we know what those are. If you've had a doctor's appointment and your medication changes, make sure that you let us know so that they know how to get the best out of their experience working with you. This is such a great email to send out, and it builds up the benefits that your client's going to get from working with you. you know, if you want to give them a freebie, this is the free thing that you should give. This is the great gift that you can give to them when they sign on as a new client. Love that one. I love it. So this might feel totally overwhelming to you. You're like, oh my God, I don't know where to start. What am I going to do next? Oh, whew. Well, this is where virtual A-team comes in. And if you're not working with virtual A-team, that's okay, totally get it. But what you do need to do is you need to start putting this all together so you can outsource many of these tasks. A team can help you with things like setting up the job forms. They can help set up the templates. They can help send out the details on a regular basis. They can help you create that strategy around all of this. So if this whole process feels very overwhelming to you, make sure that you're looking at how you can outsource these different pieces and these different aspects. And a great team can really help you do this. Automate, delegate, systematize the whole bit. Absolutely. You can do it. I know you can. Now, again, if you want those steps, if you want the detailed step-by-step kind of process of what you need to have in your onboarding system, you can check out the link below. I give you that all for free. And of course, as always, make sure that you're checking out the next video because there's more great tips on how to build your coaching business and delegate smarter.